In the early 1900s, two brothers had heard rumors of gold that lay in the remote Nahanni Valley. They set off to extract these riches only to never return home. They were eventually found beheaded. Was this the greed of prospectors looking to have the loot all to themselves, or the evil energy that the indigenous always believed inhabited the land? Today, we're investigating the Valley of the Headless Men. This is Red Web. Welcome back, Task Force, to another episode of Red Web, the podcast all about unsolved mysteries, true crime, and the unknown. Wrapping up here our Decoding December with another very interesting topic. I am your resident mystery enthusiast, Trevor Collins, and joining me hearing this case for the very first time, Alfredo Diaz.
So is this supernatural or is this a murder case? That's the question here.
Yes, indeed.
We're talking about, it seems like two individuals, but it's also called the Valley of Headless. Like what, man?
Yes.
So has there been other cases? There has to have been other cases, because if you're going to call it the Valley of Headless Men, you know what I mean? Like, you can't call it that when there was one case with two people.
Right. That's not enough.
It has to be multiple, as unfortunate as it is.
You are definitely onto something, because there is a history here, not in a tight time period, but over the course of time, where people wind up headless or they go missing. And we're going to explore those other individuals. And then, of course, you know, the two people at hand. But there are a lot more theories behind this one than I would have thought. I came in with some preconceived notions as to what might have gone down here, especially given its very remote nature. It's way up in the Northwest Territories of Canada. But yes, dude, this case goes from true crime to folklore that evolves into cryptids to traditional true crime and unsolved mystery. We tap into a little bit of all of it. And then, of course, we got a mountain man that I'm very excited to talk about.
Is it just a man that lives in the mountains and he knows things or seen things?
He's done things, he knows things, and he's seen even more.
He's just in a log cabin sitting on his porch and you're like, I've seen some things.
Yeah, we got one of them.
Oh, those two boys that are over here? Yep, I seen them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know what you're talking about, but I seen it. Yep.
Like the most helpful, non-helpful, and mysterious like person just up in okay.
He's doing one of two things.
All right. This is interesting.
Yes, sir. He's doing one of two things. You know, he's sitting on his porch playing and strumming his banjo, or he's polishing his shotgun. You know, it's always one of those two things.
Yep.
All right. This case is very interesting. But before we dive in, as always, happy holidays, everybody. If you are looking for a last minute gift, something that's cheap and easy to get for your loved ones, if you want to spread the love of mysteries, share this podcast with them. If you want to go a little further and offer them the exclusive ad-free version and all the bonus stuff that we have on our Patreon, you can go to redwebpod.com, gift a membership to your members of your family, your friends, your loved ones, or even yourself. Hey, just treat yourself. But speaking of, what are some things that we have going on right now? Well, Wednesday, we have a poll where you can choose a future episode of Red Web topic, a future movie club, a future gameplay that we do. We do all sorts of polls like that. So that's on Wednesday. And then on Friday, Fredo, I know you're excited for this one. Movie club, The Thing.
Yeah, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Still holds the test of time, I'll tell you that much. An absolute classic. Many of you guys have know or have seen this movie. And if you haven't, boy, is it a good time to jump on board, regardless of what the season, to just get into a horror masterpiece. It
is incredible. It's an amazing movie. It's Christian's pick, and I know he loves that film. I'll let him dive in here.
Oh, 100% agreed. Just like Alfredo. It's not only the best horror movie ever made, it's one of the best movies ever made. That thing is a classic. We had to do it for the holidays.
Absolutely. So if you want to hear Fredo break down the plot, he'll do that for you. And then we also talk about all the theories. There's theories that surround this movie, and we, you know us, we love a good theory. And then next week, since we will be off the next 2 weeks live, I'll talk about it in a second. Next Friday, we're doing field work where we played No, I'm Not a Human. Incredible game. That's all I want to say about it. It's just very, very interesting. So come hang out with us. But yeah, the next 2 weeks, we're not doing episodes as you normally expect those, where Fredo and I sit down and crack open another mystery. Instead, what we're doing for the holidays on our 2 weeks off, while everyone's traveling and eating turkey or whatever you do, we are decrypting, decoding, declassifying, there's a good word, 2 episodes that have been exclusive to Patreon for this year and a half or so. And so one of them is next week is going to be our commentary on the Lake City Quiet Pills episode that our task force members have had access to for several months now. And then the next one, the one after that, we're actually going to put up to a poll. And I think the poll was back here in November. So they get to decide what you're going to see the week after that. Here, me right now, I don't know what they're going to pick. So they're going to declassify for you another Patreon exclusive. And then we'll see you back here January 5th for continued goodness. So that way you never miss a step. We're always with you every Monday through December. But with all the housekeeping notes aside, let's dive in. This is a very, very interesting case. And again, I came in with some preconceived notions that were completely shattered by the time I got to the theories. So let me know what your gut check says, Fredo, as we walk through this one. So the Valley of the Headless Men is a dark nickname coined for what is actually the Nahanni National Park Reserve. As always, Fredo, I like to start with an image right out the gate. And this isn't just one of those ones you can Google up. This is one from around that time period, so you can really see what the men would look like with their boats in this area. It's gorgeous as it is terrifying when you know what's to come.
Is that a child on the rocky shore?
That looks like a child on the rocky shore. You are right. This is bring your kid to the remote, desolate area workday.
Dang.
Is that a child or is that a rock?
It is a child. I was like, is that a gremlin? What is that? It's like, oh, it looks like a child.
They just found a gremlin. I don't know if this is our crew or not, by the way. Can't confirm or deny if this is the actual crew we're going to talk about, but it is definitely the location, suffice to say.
Yeah, no, it's definitely of its time period.
So the nickname is a result, as you can imagine, of a series of unsolved deaths in the area. Now, the national park itself is located in the Decho region of the Northwest Territories of Canada. If you're not sure where that is, suffice to say it is far north and west in Canada. You can also, on a map, if you know where Alaska is, go straight east of it, skip over a territory, and now you're in it. So you're very far north, very cold, a lot of rivers and natural waterways, a lot of mountains, rocky terrain. There's a lot going on up there, but especially at the turn of the century, around the 1900s, this is an extremely remote area of the country. So the park itself, like I said, it's very remote. There's no easily accessible public roads. Despite its stunning vistas, the valley is also home to rather dangerous environments, extreme weather shifts, rapid waters, wild animals to boot. You got wolves and bears,
yeah.
Wolverines, all sorts of things. You got a mountain man, I'll tell you that.
You got a mountain man.
Apex predator.
Somewhere up there in his cabin with his rocking in his rocking chair on his porch, his shotgun ready at hand.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing on his property? What? This is the forest in the middle of nowhere. Oh, it's his property though.
If it's a mountain, it's mine.
Can you tell we watch movies?
Yeah, yeah, it's very stereotyped mountain man. All right, so this area, as desolate and remote as it is, it was first inhabited over 9,000 years ago by the Naha people. And the Naha tribe is very prevalent in the Dene history. Denes are an indigenous subgroup of the First Nations, and they typically inhabit the northern, boreal, Arctic, and subarctic regions of Canada. According to the Denes, the Naha people were very skilled at sneaking into the lowlands where they dwelled in the mountains and would raid Dene settlements. Legend says that one day the Denes decided to retaliate, and so they set out on a warpath with the intention of raiding a Naha camp. However, and this is where my preconceived notion comes in, right? I'm thinking, you know, a white man from the Southernlands comes up and starts probing for gold. It would make sense that people would protect their land, right? And so this is immediately disarmed right here, because this is very eerie. Legend says that the Denes are going to retaliate. However, when they got there to where the Naha camp was, they found it was essentially a ghost town. It was as though the Naha had vanished into thin air. And they were startled, obviously, by this, and worried by whatever might have taken the Naha would then come after them. They then fled their settlements as well. And they never saw the Naha again. And since then, the Nahanni Valley has been well known, not only, of course, for its beauty, its environment, but also the folklore that stems back to these altercations, essentially. And so there's a lot of lore and warnings baked into that folklore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's just tales of like what people think has happened, right? Different people's narratives. But that's eerie. If it's land that hasn't really been populated, or, hasn't been populated by
like Western civilization.
Yeah, civilization and everything like that. Then all of a sudden you go, okay, there's people here that have been living here for a while, and then they're not there. All right, who doesn't have questions? What happened? Did you all just get up and move?
It's very possible, but why?
Did something wipe you guys out? Like, not necessarily something supernatural. Was there like a plague or anything like that? Like, are we gonna find, like, I don't know. But then you would find bodies and stuff if it was some kind of plague. See, questions right. And theories.
Right. It reminds me, bringing it back to, like I said, Western culture, it's like the missing colony of Roanoke. We know kind of what happened now, that help wasn't coming, food wasn't coming, and so that off they went and they assimilated with the indigenous tribes, and the rest is history. But the sheer surprise when someone rolls up to where they think people have been for a long time and aren't there, and they don't have the answer, that's terrifying, and it fills your head with all possibilities. And so that's a cornerstone where some of our theories are going to stem from. But due to this very folklore, many people fear the valley, right? It's remote, it's dangerous, and now it has a history of people disappearing. And then after a series of deaths that occurred there at the turn of the century, the early 1900s, many then began to start warning of sinister entities in the area, because they're thinking, well, what else is doing this? Ripping heads off and leaving bodies behind. Again, it just continues this question of what's going on here and why, and is it all related? Or are we wrapping multiple different events in our own superstition? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? You have people that are adding in their own flavor and spices to the narrative.
Sure,
and so you go from having like this raw steak to this like seasoned, well-cooked piece of meat, and then even then side dishes and stuff like that, little things added on top of it. It's just, you just don't know what the original was.
That was a wonderful metaphor. Now I'm just hungry.
I know.
Thinking of
I want some steak.
Stick to a mountain man. He's like, I can cook me a steak, but you roll up with one of them baked taters with the bacon bits.
Ooh.
What do we do? Oh, dang.
Makes a man want to become a city man, not a mountain man no more.
Oh, you got some truffle mac and cheese with the lobster bits in it? What are we talking about?
Oh, I ain't had lobster in years.
I'm just thinking about that now, by the way. That feels like the most fancy thing. It's mac and cheese, but it feels very fancy because you're pulling like 4 major ingredients from 4 corners of the world.
Oh,
and then slapping it into a dish. That's wild. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Aura Frames. Task Force, the holiday season is imminent, and if you're a last-minute shopper like I am, you know that familiar feeling. The shelves are empty, the ideas are low. Well, Aura Frames is the solution with a gift that feels personal. I have so many Aura Frames throughout my house, but I also have given them to my parents, my grandparents, and I love the ability to quickly drop photos and videos from my phone into the frame, so no matter what recent trip or adventures you've been on, recently I was in Japan with my wife, I can dump those into our photo frame, and they immediately enter the collage, and so it scrolls through those photos and memories, but I can also send those to my family and surprise them with lovely photos, and they can do the same to me, which is really cool. We can keep up with each other that way. I think it's just so cool, and I really like that more than just a static image. With Aura Frames, you can upload unlimited photos and videos. You just download the Aura app and you connect it to Wi-Fi. You can preload photos before it ships, which is awesome, but then you can also keep adding from anywhere at any time. You can even personalize the frame as a gift. You can add a message before it arrives to your loved one, and then you can share photos and videos effortlessly straight from your phone all year long, so you can keep the gift going. And sometimes I'll just sit there and look at it and see what other photos are coming along. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off of Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code REDWEB at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code REDWEB. This deal is exclusive to Task Force members, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout and save $35. Terms and conditions apply. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Rocket Money. Managing your finances takes time. Luckily, Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you, automatically finding you ways to save and simplifying the process. Less stress, more free time, and a clearer path toward financial freedom, all in one app. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money shows you all your expenses in one place, including subscriptions you have forgotten about. If you see a subscription you no longer want, Rocket Money will help you cancel it. Their dashboard lays out your total financial picture, including bill due dates and paydays, in a way that's easy to digest. You can even automatically create custom budgets based on your past spending. I use Rocket Money, Alfredo uses Rocket Money, and I know Christian uses Rocket Money. It is so easy to monitor everything that's going on. If you have multiple credit cards, debit cards, bank accounts, what have you, it will put it all into one place so you can see what you're spending, when and where, but also money that's coming in. It makes something that's hard to track much more turnkey. So if you're looking for an easy way to track all your spending, I can't recommend Rocket Money enough. Rocket Money has saved users over $2.5 billion, including over $880 million in canceled subscriptions alone. Their 10 million members save up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/redweb today. That's rocketmoney.com/redweb. One more time, rocketmoney.com/redweb. Okay, so let's talk now about our two main subjects, because this is the first and most well-known two deaths that happened here at the early 1900s. You have Willie and Frank McLeod. And of course, we have an image of them as well, and I believe they're in order. Willie on the left, Frank on the right. So this looks like a tintype style black and white photo.
Those hairstyles, those stashes. The gentleman to the left, I've never seen a hairstyle like that before. He's got such a thick part down the middle of his head, but it also looks like it's more than a part, like maybe he shaved the middle.
Ooh, yeah, like he took a razor to increase the part, but he accidentally nicked too much.
The part is like multiple times larger than a normal part.
You could run a finger down that part.
You can. And then one side's combed down and the other side has like, it's combed up and then sharply down. I've never seen that hairstyle before in my life.
Well, rest in peace, Willie and Frank.
Sorry, old chap. Rest in peace.
Sorry, old chap.
That hairstyle did not trend. I'm sorry.
Oh, man. All right, so this is 1904. The pair are from Edmonton, Alberta, and they are heading to the Nahanni National Park. This is a pretty vast distance. Although they're all still in Canada and they're coming from the south, this is 1,845 kilometers, or 1,146 miles if you prefer. So, what drove them to the remote reaches of Canada? Why were they heading to this particular valley? Well, they had heard rumors of gold and set out to try to mine for their riches. In fact, they were met with success and returned home within the year with gold samples as proof of their finds. And they went about telling their friends and their family that they found gold so pure that it had to be worth a small fortune. They basically wanted to drum up a crew and head back out and really plumb the depths of the land and come back, gods, rich.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? You struck gold, go back with some men, you invest essentially. You go, okay, this venture panned out. Now we're going to reinvest into it and we're going to hopefully multiply our take home.
Right, absolutely. And so the following year, they ventured out. This time they were accompanied by a Scottish engineer. This time, however, the brothers and the Scotsman all disappeared, never to be heard from again. And what's interesting is I don't believe the identity of this Scotsman has ever been figured out. We don't know who this person was, so I will kind of refer to them as Scotsmen because that's really the only detail we have. So all three go, and years go by, and then in 1908, their older brother, Charlie McLeod, organizes a search party in the Nahanni Valley to find his brothers. It's been 3 years. Now, it's unclear why the search party didn't depart for 3 whole years, though you can kind of make some general assumptions. The extreme isolation of the valley makes it very difficult to communicate in and out of, if not impossible. And so maybe he's thinking, well, they said they were going to be gone for a year. Gold prospecting could take multiple years, so it could be that he didn't feel anything was off until 3 years went by, at which point he was like, all right, enough time's gone by. I'm actually concerned now. I'm going to go look and see what happened.
Right.
maybe go find them.
I mean, that's wild that it could take a couple years.
I mean, even now in modern times, it's seasonal, and so you'd expect that people would go up to places like Alaska in the summer when the ground is thawed, go digging, come back for the winter. But yeah, I mean, especially at this time, traveling 1,100 plus miles, it's slow going.
Yeah.
Snail mail ain't coming in and out of that place unless you send it yourself and you carry it. So 3 years are on, it's 1908 now, and he sets off for the valley, and he ends up finding their camp along with 2 skeletal remains that he believed belonged to his brothers. The bodies were found at the river's edge, and their heads had been severed. Now, some reports state that one of the brothers actually had their arm reached out, as if reaching for their gun. Either way, we don't know this for sure, but it does seem that blankets were still on at least one of the brothers, as if one of the brothers, like sleeping next to each other, they threw the blanket over, it happened to land on the other brother, and then they got up, leaping up in a hurry as if something surprised them in the night or while they were sleeping. And again, as for the Scotsman, we don't know for sure if this isn't his body or both the brothers, but there's only 2 bodies and there's 3 men, and so it's presumed that the Scotsman was never found.
Oh. It's interesting how the 2 men were found in such a action pose, in a sense.
It's what it seems like, yeah.
Which is like, is that how, does rigor mortis set in that fast? Where it would, freeze the man's arm so it looks like he's reaching for his gun when he was reaching for his gun?
That's an interesting question. I wonder, if they fell in that way and then whatever did this left them that way. And so then rigor mortis set in, their body becomes rigid, the flesh decays, the skeleton remains in that pose. Yeah, it's hard to say, but maybe it's exaggeration. To be completely honest, this is what we know from the reports of Charlie going up there with the search party.
Yeah, it does seem spiced up, we're just like, well, which is wild because finding them already is such a wild tale.
Yeah.
But people have this habit of wanting to like make it even more outlandish. You know what I mean? I'm like, it doesn't need to be. And now you're possibly muddying up the water and like history down the line.
Yeah. The old history game of telephone.
Yeah.
I can also see it becoming a lot more alarming just by the nature of this being their brother. And so immediately his head is filled with questions that he's wanting answers to. What was going on? Was he reaching for this weapon? He was attacked. My question is, above all of this, if that is the pose they were lying dead in, reaching for the weapon, tossing the blanket over onto the other brother, etc., what killed them that fast? Was it somebody with something very sharp so as to behead them in the moment, in the action, in one fell swoop? Was it a shot that killed them instantly? It feels like whatever it would have been, to fall in the action pose, right?
Yeah.
It would be fast.
That's the thing. That's why I'm like, when does rigor mortis set in? Is it that fast? How do you kill someone in that way and then they get stuck like, I don't know. It's very interesting, which is why I'm like, I think there's something here that isn't cool. That's kind of spun up in a sense comparatively than just like an outright true to form story.
And while we're here, there's also the possibility that they were stood with a weapon in their hands. Let's imagine they have a revolver and then they get struck dead. However, and then they fall, their hand might fall down and then the gun falls from their hand. Now it looks like they're reaching, So I think you're right. Whatever it is, whether it's intended or accidental, something spun up, but this is how they were found. And so you can really create the moment that they were found in or killed in. But either way, what's really interesting is their heads had never been found, never recovered. And it's rumored that one of the MacLeod brothers had a habit of carving messages into trees, which I don't know if I love it or if it's convenient, but I love it. Either way, okay, he's got a habit of carving into trees. And then reportedly a message is found on a piece of like a broken dog sled, essentially, like the runner. And on it, it says, "We have found a fine prospect." Kind of alluding to the fact that one of the MacLeod brothers found this piece of wood, carved his journal into it, verifying that this was their kind of identity. I don't know. Again, I'm reminded of Roanoke.
Yeah, it's very similar-esque in terms of like the disappearance of things.
Yeah. So then, of course, news spreads of the missing brothers that are then found without their heads, along with the alleged mine that they had found. And so then the term Lost MacLeod Mine was used to reference the incident. And so those who had heard the rumors of gold began to travel to the Nahanni Valley, hoping to discover some gold for themselves. And the lost McLeod mine has since slipped into legend, if it ever really truly existed. You know, gold can be panned from the river, it could be found by digging down. It isn't always you go down into the traditional mine that's kind of like a hollowed out mountain or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Lost McLeod Mine is a piece of legend all of its own. It's very interesting to see that happen. But again, these aren't the only two guys who lose their heads in the area. Because in the early 1900s, we still are, after hearing rumors of this lost gold that's held in the Nahanni Valley, a prospector named Martin Jorgensen set out to find some for himself. And some reports state that Jorgensen made his way to the valley around 1910, but the exact year is technically unclear. He then built a cabin in the valley, and he wrote home saying that he struck it rich, and he had found lots of gold in the area. Then in 1917, his body was found, also decapitated amongst the burnt remains of his log cabin, and it's unclear if he was ever reported missing before his death. Jorgensen's head was also never recovered.
I mean, then where are the area's native people hiding? You know what I mean? Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, if they're nowhere to be found, then how is, like, who's doing this reoccurring thing here?
Right.
Which is why I see why superstition comes into play and the supernatural and everything like that. Because someone's doing this if we're finding these bodies.
And these are 13 years apart. You know, we'll talk about it more in the theories, but is this someone, some group, because it seems habitual? Is it someone hiding a murder underneath the shadow of folklore, considering a lot of the fear that's going on? It could be both. I mean, again, there's a lot of theories here, but before we get to those, I need to talk about a couple more people losing their heads in this area.
Damn.
So we're 1904, we're 1917, but there's been several other reported mysterious deaths in the Nahanni Valley that unfortunately have very little reported on their backstory. So we don't have a whole lot here other than dates, names, and some details. So in 1922, a man named John O'Brien, a World War II veteran, was found reportedly deceased in the Nahanni Valley. He was found hunched over a pile of firewood with a matchbook in his hand, as though he was in the middle of lighting a fire when he died. Now that's all we have on this guy, but again, it feels like whatever happened, whatever killed the person, killed him instantly. So as to show that he was still in the middle of doing something, reaching for a pistol, lighting a fire, whatever.
I always wonder if, like, they took the two initial victims and then that added spice of lore of, like, oh, he's reaching for his gun, and it's like, oh, okay. Anyone headless is in some, like, type of action pose that they're frozen.
Right.
And
okay, so they're primed to see something, you're saying?
Yeah, they could be, simply just primed to be like, oh my goodness, you know, so it could be just lying there. Like, oh my God, they were trying to do this. You can tell by the way and I've heard about this, right? They're primed. Their subconscious has that thought. I
mean, also, you know, it's possible for whatever mysterious reason, these bodies were posed.
True.
Maybe to look like they were doing something, and I don't know, lighting a fire in the woods could be seen as, like, dangerous. First of all, you could create a forest fire if you're not doing it responsibly. I don't know, right? We could wax poetic on the possibilities, but that's all we have on John O'Brien. We have even less on this next guy. We don't even have a name. There are reports of a Yukon fisherman. The Yukon Territory is just west, I believe, of the Northwest Territory. Don't tell my wife if I'm wrong. She's Canadian. I can't let that happen. So this person remains unnamed, but reports say that they died of decapitation in 1927. So we have 1904, 1917, 1922, 1927. Every few years, something's happening, like Pennywise is waking up in the area. And then rumors swirled almost 20 years later that another man named Ernest Savard was also found decapitated lying in his sleeping bag in the year 1945. But, you know, we talked about a handful of cases here. In total, there have been roughly 44 people who have gone missing or died in the Nahanni Valley between the years 1906 and 1969.
I mean, that's a big amount of time. Again, at this point, you're adding in probably like generations doing this.
Right. I mean,
if it is someone,
probably.
Then and so where are the people?
Where are the people? You're right. It's a long period of time. It makes you question, are people hiding their motives by copying others? Is it one guilty party? Is it one guilty group? Or, is this still going on? Really, it's unclear how many more people might have passed and disappeared in the area since this time period.
True.
Well, we'll dive into the theories. All these gruesome, mysterious deaths have, as you know, led to the nickname of the Valley of the Headless Men. And it is kind of taken over the name, which I kind of find a little disrespectful because the actual name is the Nahanni National Park Reserve. And you're kind of wiping over that and saying, Valley of Headless Men.
Right.
That's where you go to die.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's earned a new name.
But I guess I can see why,
Like I said, people want to tell stories and stuff like that, these fanciful stories. And so they want to be that person, that satisfaction of like, oh, you haven't heard of the Valley of Headless Men?
Right.
Someone's eyes perk up. You're like, I could educate them on this.
And the story doesn't really land when you go, oh yeah, 2 guys went gold prospecting and they disappeared. I guess they lost their heads, but that's the story? Okay, well no. You see, the tale begins, right? You can see how that happens naturally, especially if it's like my old grandpa telling me as a young buck, I'm 7 years old, and he's elevating a story beyond the realm of reality. And he was an amazing storyteller.
He's adding his own little spices, you know what I'm saying?
Just a little spice. And then I grow up going, did you know this was fact? And they go, you need to stop believing everything Grandpa tells you.
Yeah.
Okay, as we head into the theories, there are a surprising amount of them. Where's your head at? Because again, by this point, I feel like my preconceived notions were shaken off a little bit, but we're going to talk about all of it. What are you thinking?
The thing is that the fact that it's spanning for so many years, almost now, I would say at least 2 generations, I don't know. Like, I got nothing. We don't even have the people of that area were still there, but there's no evidence. And then you can maybe think, okay, maybe we didn't find evidence, etc. But people were gone and this is still happening, and it's been happening for so long, multiple generations. I got nothing. Like, I have no clue what it could be.
Well, I think, to be clear, and forgive me, in modern times, I haven't looked at the modern history of the valley, but historically, the Naha people were the ones that kind of vanished, left, migrated, died, whatever it might be. And the Denes might still, I believe at this time period at least, might still be in the area. So that's worth at least kind of throwing out there. But
true. But we have might still be in the area.
Right. Well, that's also my ignorance baked in, to be fair. So with that, we'll talk about it all. We'll start with, I think, what might be the most obvious, which is that of a rival prospector. This is cowboy times, man. You are out in the wild Northwest, remote. No one's going to hear you if you scream for miles, right? So some believe that the culprit of these mysterious beheadings might simply be another prospector hunting for gold. It could be someone local, could be someone that transferred in. Maybe these 2 guys did something and then came back and got attacked for it. We don't know what happens in the wilds because it is so remote.
That's a very good point. It could literally just be people trying to take advantage of how isolated this area is. And, when there is profit and gain involved, then people get pretty nasty.
Yes, 1,000%. Greed, according to Gordon Gekko, is good. It is not good in this environment where you're sitting there basically hidden from God up there. There's no law. There's no civilization as you know it.
Right.
And so no law as you know it. So yeah, maybe it's a situation where they're all vying for the same gold and eliminating competition. Now, some have theorized that this unknown prospector could actually be the still missing Scotsman who traveled up there with the MacLeod brothers. Because, remember, his remains were never found. So some theorize that he lived and became protective of the gold that he had found, but he lived in the area. Maybe he attacked these 2 brothers and said, I'm taking what we found for myself and living off the land. Or just going anywhere else. We don't know who this guy is.
Yeah.
So, who knows? If a rich Scotsman in any other story, task force, use our hive mind. If a rich Scotsman ever has just dropped into a town sometime, let us know. Maybe we got him.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because he was never found.
Never found. If some rich Scotsman came walking into with a vial of gold going, I got the riches. We got him.
Got him.
That's him.
Check his pockets, check his hands, everything.
Now, another part of this theory states that he potentially fled the scene and that the other decapitations are just coincidence or maybe a way of following a motive. Again, people doing ne'er-do-well things and then hiding it under the bed of somebody else's crime. You know, we've seen that with serial killers. People copy the MO and then they go, well, it must be the other guy, not me. This guy's known for taking heads. I'll take a head or two, and then you'll think it's them.
They'll think it's them, or they'll think it's something supernatural. Either way, they'll go, oh, this is just normal. I guess, you know, in a little way, like a little desensitized, right?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Then you start chalking it up to, oh, it's this again. Right. What are we gonna do? Maybe.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like, okay, it's what we know. It's as messed up as it is. It's what we know happens in this area. You know. Yeah. If you started doing something like stabbing people, cutting limbs, something like that, then draws more attention, right? People are back in.
As much as I hate it, that kind of makes sense.
Right? It does. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, a separate set of crimes might spur on a new investigation. I don't know. I don't know how these things work. The next theory kind of stems, like I said, into local folklore, and we'll take a deeper dive into this in like another theory or two here. But local folklore states that the region of the Nahanni Valley is cursed. Now, you know me, I don't really like to lean into the idea of indigenous curses. I think it's a little problematic and it's a little stereotypical to just be like, oh, well, it must have been this. But there is actually a little bit more depth to this one. It isn't just throwing out the idea of a curse and moving on. The Dene's oral history actually states that there is an unknown evil that inhabits the valley, and that this might be what causes these men or these people to come through here to meet an untimely fate. There are even references to places that the Denes have considered to be forbidden because of the malevolent spirit that lives there, or maybe spirits plural. Now, another version of this theory actually continues on to say that there are actually remaining members of the Naha tribe living in the valley, as you and I were kind of positing on. And the idea here would be that they are actually incredibly protective of their land. And so some theorize that they didn't take kindly to gold seekers coming up into their land, digging, taking the riches from their land, plundering otherwise their backyard. I can see how incredibly disrespectful that would be. And so therefore they took it on their own to protect their land and thus, you know, ended up killing these individuals. Now, there's never been any concrete evidence that the tribe or any group like this or any group of people were at fault for these murders. So I want to be very honest about that. This is just a theory, but one can say, you know, it could make sense. It could easily click into place.
Yeah, I mean, it's a narrative that can definitely fit, but without any evidence, you know.
That's the thing.
Or even that of like a setup or something like that, where they were like, you know, were the fall guys for it or whatever. Nothing like that seems to come into play here.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how it makes sense based on the histories as we know it and the oral histories that are passed down. You know, the stealthy kind of attacks that they shared back and forth, the Dene and the Naha peoples. But yeah, other than that, it doesn't have a lot of concrete things to go off of. But yeah, this next theory is actually very interesting and reminds me a little bit of the Dyatlov Pass. That there's people could be at fault. There could be some sinister underlying thing, some mystery, or it could be that the environment itself was just dangerous, treacherous even. You know, we know the Nahanni Valley is known for having harsh and unforgiving climates, environments, weather changes, and things. And so some have theorized that these deaths are not mysterious at all, but rather the result of cold winters and hungry wildlife. Specifically, people speculate that these deaths were caused by medical problems brought on by the environment that they're in, especially if they bring provisions that, you know, we've seen it with other cases like lead poisoning from the canned food or any other things, like if food poisoning goes down, what have you, starvation's probably a possibility, etc. And then once they die relating to environmental issues, the decapitations themselves could be a result of scavenging animals, bears, wolves.
They go just for the head?
That's the question. That's the question that remains. Why would they take only the head and not remove any of the other body parts?
Right.
And I don't know enough about a skeleton, to be honest. It could be that 3 years went by, and so that's enough for birds and animals to pick this thing clean. And so, yes, eventually the rest of the flesh rots away and the skeleton remains. Is the skull connected well enough to or fragile enough to just fall off? Could that end up accidentally rolling away in the winter weather? Or
I didn't think about it just rolling away.
Yeah, if they're near the river, could tides at all or shifts in like snow melt raise the water levels enough? Again, I don't know how well the skull is connected to the spine, but if the skull is able to float away, why wouldn't other bones?
So, I feel like we'd be missing a lot more in terms of pieces on the body.
Yeah.
And so far, it's always just been like the head. And like wildlife wouldn't just go for that unless there's some deep cut like vulture fact I don't know about that they go for the head and that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like, speaking of Dyatlov, I mean, a lot of the soft tissues in the frozen environment were the things that animals went for, you know, tongues, eyes, lips, and it created a very terrifying scene that people stumbled into. But it's not like, oh, well, let's just take the whole head off. You know, I go for the brains.
Exactly.
There's no like amygdala eating cryptoid running around in the area.
Yeah. And so it doesn't quite line up.
It makes a lot of sense, and it would also answer as to why there's such limited evidence, but I don't think it makes any more standout sense than the idea of a rival prospector or anybody else just doing human on human crime. I don't know. Now, before we dive into the last theory, which again is pretty wild, is Mountain Man, I want to discuss again some local folklore that has since been used by modern cryptid fans to answer for what happened. What's interesting here is that, okay, first off, there's not a whole lot on the matter, but you know, of course, I love to discuss the idea of folklore, monsters, and anything in between. But what's also interesting is that in researching these two answers, I'll say, these theories, you can kind of watch as rumors or oral history becomes folklore, becomes legend, becomes monster, becomes myth. You watch this kind of evolve as new generations or new cultures catch wind of these stories, and then they put their own beliefs into these stories.
Yeah.
This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Shopify. Channel the fresh start energy of the new year and finally launch your business with Shopify. I know you're dreaming about it. Make it happen. 2026 is the year to rewrite your story, own your future, and make your entrepreneurial dreams come true. Start your business with Shopify in 2026 and become who you're meant to be. Shopify gives you everything you need to sell online and in person. Millions of entrepreneurs have already made this leap, from household names like Magic Spoon to first-time business owners just getting started. Shopify gives you all the tools to easily build your dream store. Choose from hundreds of beautiful templates that you can customize to match your brand. Setup is fast, and Shopify has the tools to help you write product descriptions and headlines and help you edit product photos. Marketing is built in too. Create email and social campaigns that reach your customers wherever they scroll. As you grow, Shopify grows with you. Handle more orders, expand to new markets, and do it all from the same dashboard. In 2026, stop waiting and start selling with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/redweb. Go to shopify.com/redweb. That's shopify.com/redweb. Hear your first this new year with Shopify by your side. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are a time of tradition. Some people have many in their family and some have none or are just beginning their own. Incorporating therapy into one of those new or existing traditions can help ensure you take time for yourself during what can be a very joyful but sometimes hectic and lonely time of the year. Therapy is a very personal journey, but in my experience, BetterHelp is a great tool and first step in exploring your therapy journey and finding the right person for you. Therapy is an essential tool for many because it helps you acquire the tools necessary to tackle life's challenges. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the US. BetterHelp does all the initial matchmaking work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals, and if you aren't happy with your match, switch to a different therapist at any time from their tailored recommendations. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This December, start a new tradition by taking care of you. Task Force members get 10% off at betterhelp.com/redweb. That's betterhelp.com/redweb. So with that caveat again, not a lot of information here. But the first entity we're going to talk about is that of the Wahila, which is like a giant wolf. So per EBSCO, the Wahila is a legendary creature rooted in folklore primarily associated here with the Nahanni Valley. This is a white-furred, wolf-like creature often described as massive, standing at 4 feet tall at the shoulders. It's like muscle-bound. Like, this is a yoked-out dire wolf, basically. And that's really all we have there, and it's very fascinating to kind of throw out the idea of a cryptid or something greater than we know it, but there's no evidence to suggest this legendary creature actually exists, though its stories may originate from Inuit mythology, with the goal of these stories to symbolize the danger of the valley, wildlife, and wolves themselves. And when you think about it that way, it becomes, I think, it disarms the cryptid angle, but I think it's still equally fascinating because you see why it existed in the first place. You're telling a young child in this, Inuit culture, hey, this is a story, and the goal of this story is so you don't just go wandering out there. There's wildlife, there's dangers, there's cliffs, and so it's like it carries a message with it, but then through the lens of time, through the lens of other people's cultures, it kind of takes on the form of there's a cryptid in the area.
Yeah, I mean, again, the game of telephone that we talked about,
Exactly.
And things just, details get left out because people forget, people add in their own spices, and then all of a sudden things become larger than life.
And I find, yes, it's not as fun as the idea of a giant undiscovered wolf wandering around, but I find understanding where things come from to be very interesting, to the point of, like, we did a whole episode on Bigfoot. I would be very curious who the guy was that kind of kicked off the whole Bigfoot craze, and was it a mountain man?
Yeah. Seriously, was it just someone that was just, in a ghillie suit or something like that running around?
Yeah.
And then they were just like, oh my God, it's not a regular man.
That's a big man right there. I wish my legend was that I disappear, the identity of Trevor Collins fades away, and that I leave behind a terrifying tale of a lanky, tall freak monster, pale, glowing in the moonlight. And he's always in the buck, too. Why is he roaming around on his knuckles and his feet and eating berries from my plants? That's all he does, is he gets in my garden, and sometimes I think he's fertilizing the garden. Not in the way you think, in the proper way, like a gardener, not like a dog.
I'm like, damn, is he spreading it around or something?
I didn't, I was riffing. But that I feel like that'd be fascinating for someone to, like, in the afterlife, they go, yes, here's all your stats. Here's how many gallons of pee you've had, how many spiders you've eaten. And, you made Bigfoot.
Yeah. Yeah, you created Bigfoot. You were that one camping trip turned into all that.
All right. Yeah. Just one bad mushroom trip turned into Bigfoot out there on the camping trails.
At least one of them has to be something like that.
Right. Okay. So the next piece of folklore we're going to talk about is the idea of the Nahanni. So the Dene folklore talks about a figure known as the Nahanni, and originally it seemed that the Nahanni referenced elusive enemies. And as I kind of teased you earlier, there's a greater history here that I don't know enough to unpack for you, but it's based in their history of, kind of fighting with other tribes and stealthing into their camp, so to speak, to either attack or kidnap. And this figure kind of took the form both physically and psychologically in these old stories. But then, of course, in more modern times, exaggeration has led to descriptions that have greatly exaggerated what the Nahanni has become now. And to my casual understanding, the descriptions now are that of a hairy hominid. They're kind of monsters not unlike Bigfoot, though I have seen them described as 5 feet tall. I've also seen them described as twice the size of a normal human. And some people call them giants. These are like the valley giants of the area. So it's kind of hybridizing a lot of separate ideas here. But suffice to say, the idea here is that these giants, these entities, whatever they might have been, popularized monsters in the 20th century, might have attacked these men because they stumbled into them, right? Because they were protecting the cave that they lived in, or the land, or what have you, or their existence.
Like a territorial type of fight.
And again, there's no real evidence to show the existence of this entity, but it likely has similar origins to the Wahila, a legend told to those who may wander off in an otherwise dangerous, remote area of the world. But with that, a little tangent into Folklore Alley, let's now talk about the Mad Trapper of Rat River. I don't think I could come up with a better name for a mountain man than that.
Mad Trapper of Mad River?
Rat River.
Rat River. Oh, God. Okay.
A river of rats. Perfectly appropriate. All right. So
someone was just trying to cook real hard with all the naming conventions in this area.
Yeah. Or they just started running out of animals and they started dipping into the squalor.
Yeah.
I don't know.
True.
Rat River.
Rat River.
So there are a few reports that mention one man who could be the culprit, this so-called Mad Trapper of Rat River. So his actual name in these reports is Albert Johnson, although it's believed that this name is also a pseudonym, that his actual real name is unknown. Either way, it's said that Johnson was a recluse who lived about 40 miles away from the Nahanni Valley, and that he also searched for the lost McLeod mines. In December of 1931, another local trapper complained to police that Johnson was messing with his traps, hanging them up from trees. Basically taking his animal traps, and instead of letting them do their thing, he would string them up in trees and kind of make them inert, what have you. Seems like a trapper on trapper prank, or maybe he's like, hey, this is my trapping territory. These are my squirrels you're after. So later in the month, specifically December 26, 1931, Happy Boxing Day, Constable Alfred King and Special Constable Joe Bernard trekked up to Johnson's cabin to question him about this allegation. Hey, are you messing with this guy's traps? Although it was pretty clear that he was home because smoke was coming from the chimney, Johnson refused to answer the door for the officers. In fact, he completely ignored them. The officers, as brave as they are, started poking, knocking on the windows, looking around. When they went to the windows, Johnson then would cover the window with a sack. So obviously he's in there. He's just not going to answer the door. King and Bernard then go back to town. This time they're going to get a search warrant so they can actually enter the property legally and try to figure out what's going on. They come back 5 days later, this time with 2 more men in tow, and after Johnson yet again refused to answer the door, they declared the warrant and tried to forcefully come inside. These guys are way braver than I would because you don't kick in a mountain man's door.
No, man, especially one that's, probably keen on traps. And
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I don't know.
You could have home alone that place.
Yeah, I don't rig the place. Who knows?
Right. So they're trying to come in through the door forcefully. Well, turns out Johnson doesn't have any traps, but he does have a gun. So Johnson shoots King through the wooden door and then books it out the back door off into the woods. Or maybe out a window. I don't know. He just flees.
Seems suspicious. Seems guilty.
Well, I mean, he just shot a police officer, that's for sure. So King, the officer who is shot, is taken back to town, treated for his injuries. I believe he lives. Johnson then continues to elude police, running through the woods, trying to escape them, but his escape ended in a fatal shootout in Eagle River over in Yukon. Found in his possession, though, again, building on the tale, were a few gold teeth. While it's reported that these teeth were his own, I don't know why he's got them in his pocket, or maybe they fell out. I don't know how they were found on his person. Rumors speculate that those teeth actually belonged to the decapitated victims that he had killed. And to this day, I mean, his true identity is unclear, and his involvement in the murders of Nahanni Valley are speculative at best. I mean, it seems like a wild tale to be sure. But if he's going to keep trophies of heads and then take their gold teeth, why is he running around with those on his person? I don't know.
I mean, not that it necessarily needs a motive, but what would be the motive here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, if you take it all at face value, it seems like this guy wasn't taking kindly to another trapper in the area. But, I mean, this is in 1931, not long after these other people were killed and decapitated. In fact, the last decapitation we talked about was in 45. And so, if it was this guy, he's just messing with the traps. It's not like he cut the guy's head off. And then, you know, he's kind of defending his cabin from people entering in or barging their way in. It honestly just looks like somebody who might live a wildly different life than you and I are expecting, but are kind of defending themselves and then just got wrapped up in it. And
yeah,
I don't know, it was that guy.
Doesn't necessarily, I mean, they did shoot at someone, so they're in that realm, but but like decapitating people is a whole nother huge leap from like, someone's breaking into my home and I shot them to like I decapitated people.
And it doesn't seem like gold is on his menu to sell, at least. It doesn't seem like money is on his mind because it looks like he's self-sufficient, living off the grid as it is. again, assuming all of this is fact, this could all be tall tale.
True.
Because again, this whole thing, assuming he's a suspect, right? It's speculative. But it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's something compelling about a mountain man. Just tickles the mind.
Just living up there, doing his thing, off the grid, like you said.
Now, of course, backing up out of the theories, looking holistically now at all these people who have disappeared or wound up headless. I mean, these are ultimately tragedies, and we can only speculate as to what might have been going on. All of these things kind of make sense, but there's no definitive answer, unfortunately. And so, despite these tragedies that have struck the beautiful Nahanni Valley, it seems as though no formal investigation or arrests have been made regarding the deaths, and we may and probably never will know what happened to each of these individuals. If it was the same culprit, if it was a group of culprits, if it was copycats, what have you. And additionally, interestingly, and maybe most sad of all, if this was the originating spark to everything, no gold has ever been found in large quantities in this area. And so it seems,
goodness.
yeah. So it seems that all these tragedies were almost built on greed but baseless in the end, you know? And ain't that your standard tragic tale?
A tall tale that spurted another tall tale. You know what I mean? Like, damn.
Yeah.
Not even like it was like the San Francisco gold rush or something like that, California gold rush.
Right.
Nothing like that. It was just like, yeah, there might have been some gold, but no one really profited off of it. And I mean, I'm thinking maybe people killed each other for it.
And then ultimately no one comes up with any gold, you know?
Yeah, not at all.
Dire to be sure, tragic, and again, it's one of those topics that hits a little bit of everything we've talked about between true crime, folklore, cryptids, a little bit of treasure seeking, but ultimately an unsolved case, a disappearance meets true crime. Wild to be sure. I mean, I think just being in the wilds of northern Canada is terrifying. We've seen people disappear near civilization when the woods get a little too thick. So props to these guys. I know gold was the motivation, but bravery was the fuel, because you wouldn't catch me up there without 15 licensed guides and maybe about 12.5 satellite cell phones now.
1,000%. 1,000%. This is really one of those mysteries where you could just chalk it up to whatever you want to believe in.
Honestly, yeah.
It could be a murder, like you're saying. It could be a murder case. It could be a cryptid. Like it could be supernatural. There's really not anything that heavily leans one way. There isn't a theory that really stands out. And so you can kind of just go, I kind of believe it to be this.
Right.
Very much kind of like a choose your own adventure type thing.
Right. What feels most right? What feels maybe less scary? You know?
Yeah.
And I think it's because it is so remote that, I mean, certainly in 1904, 1908 or whatever, police aren't going to go trekking up there, especially they're way out of their jurisdiction. I mean, nowadays you have maybe the Mounties who might have jurisdiction over this, might go looking into it if it happened, but 1908, I don't know. You're basically on Mars.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever know. It's just so remote and so far back.
Well, that has been the Valley of the Headless Men, and I would be remiss if I don't give you some shout-outs, Task Force, for supporting us directly at redwebpod.com. Happy holidays. If you want to give the gift of Red Web, you can do so for free by just sharing us with your friends, anybody that you like talking about this stuff with. I'm glad I have Fredo and Christian to kind of scratch that itch every single week, talk about these eerie, unsolved cases, whatever's going on, and kind of geek out. So share the podcast with somebody. We would greatly appreciate it. You can also go to redwebpod.com, support us directly, get the podcast ad-free, get lots of exclusives every single week. Again, next Monday, we are unveiling what was an exclusive, our commentary on Lake City Quiet Pills, kind of looking back on our very first episode. And then the week after that, I'll just leave it as a surprise. Task Force will decide for you, and I will shout them out now. We have, as the newest Task Force member, Uncle Pab. I just love a good username.
Hello, Unc. What's good?
Yeah, Unc status confirmed. And then our buff scientist of the week, we have Kai Boos. And then our squonks to wrap out December a little early. We've got Loke, Holster, Jordan Chase, Neo Trickster, Dakota, just to name a few. Thank you all so much. Truly, thank you. It's another year in the books, Fredo. It's hard to think about because we are recording a little in advance, but it's wild.
That's
man.
true. And we've said it, we talked about it before, but going independent, it's a big undertaking and it's very scary, but you guys have, come out and supported us, and you guys love this little weird corner that we've created. and this community that we've created. And so just very thankful that we get to do this because of you guys, solely because of the support that you guys give to us. So thank you so very much.
Exactly. Well, with that wonderful thank you under our belts, Fredo, I'll see you right back here on Monday, January 5th. But Task Force, rest assured, we got you the next 2 Mondays. And I'll see you guys next Monday.